take coming in on Eternal, which, by the way, has slipped well sub the 300 rupee per share mark. 280 is where that stock is struggling. Whereas ICICI Bank, given that the week started off with that big reaction coming in from the private banking majors, while ICICI Bank was unequivocally the biggest winner, that was not quite the case with HDFC, Kotak, or for that matter, and Axis Bank. They were the ones which were lagging quite a fair bit. And SBI, which also has had a rough last 2 days, finally is closing in absolutely flat around 1,015 thereabouts is where the stock is currently holding. HDFC Bank, consistent weakness, even though the stock has recovered from its day's lows, it's still, closing in the day with almost a 0.5% cut for itself. For the week, of course, we are clearly ending the week sub the 23,800 odd level in trade. And, that's a significant weakness. In fact, the Nifty has managed to end in the red for all 5 consecutive trading sessions this entire week. And I think we're settling in for a over 2% fall on the index alone, with the Nifty Bank clearly weighing heavy on the indexes, shedding about almost 3% this week. Crude, of course, was the big niggling worry. Having said that, the good news has just come in the last few odd hours or minutes, in fact, wherein you've seen a 4% sharp drop come in crude prices. But yes, crude is almost adjusted for this 4%, cool off as well. We're still ending the week by about almost an 8% of an uptick, and it's a 4th consecutive session of gains that crude is actually closing the day with. It was, of course, earnings heavy. Highlights like Infosys cutting its revised FY27 revenue growth. Although it's fortunate that the stock went in weak into its numbers, Nestle managed to beat the street estimates with volume growth in mid-teens, and you saw a big spike in that stock. Dr. Reddy's missed the street estimates, but brokerages have raised their targets, and Cipla, on the other hand. And having said that, next week is going to be as heavy, with a combined weightage of 30% of the Nifty, 14 Nifty results next week. You've got Unilever, you've got Asian Paints, you've got M&M, you've got Maruti among the auto majors. So a large chunk of the Nifty weightage is due to report its numbers next week as well. Anyway, for the day, the Nifty Bank has managed to recover ground, and the Nifty is closing in much better than where it started off the trade with. It's closing in just about marginally soft for itself. What about the breadth of the market? Because that as well cracked hard when we stepped into trade. From there, of course, there's been a marked recovery with 111 standing to the declines, with about 103 standing to the advances. KPIT Tech, Tata Elxsi, Godfrey Phillips, Persistent and Astral, along with large caps like a Trent, Wipro and HCL Technologies, have managed to close the day higher. But on the flip side, there's been a lot of weakness as well. Bajaj Finance, Shriram, M&M, Eternal, Tata Consumer ahead of its numbers, ONGC, Asian Paints have all been ranked underperformers, along with Motilal Oswal, recovered just a tad bit after its earnings. At the lowest point in the day, it was staring at almost a 9% fall. Swiggy, GBT&D, Power India, TI Industries, these are some of the other rank underperformers in trade today.
Well, yes, you look at Fractal, that stock was down 9% despite a very decent set of numbers, frankly. Go Digit, weak numbers, stock down 9%. Motilal has closed 7.5% lower. Of course, numbers are always to be looked at and adjusted for the mark-to-market gains and losses where Motilal is concerned, but operating profit was certainly weak. Phenotech's Chemicals was the other one, and Seshasai Tech was one of them, which was lower. Gujarat Alkalis, though, on the other hand, 4.5% higher. Thyrocare also up 4%, some decent moves made by those. Let's also look at some numbers which came out at some point of time today, and Greenply was one of those calamities, 8.5% lower over there. Akitas Chemicals too, down around 6%. V-Mart down 5.5% as well. Atul was the one that really stood out. Atul Limited up nearly 6%. Dr. Lal up 5%. PVR Inox up 4.5% as well. And Axis Cades Tech 3.25% higher on that one on the back of numbers. Of course, a couple of stocks like Precall were in focus as Goldman Sachs initiated coverage on a couple of those names. And therefore, you had those stocks as well, which were doing fairly okay in trade. Broader markets, though, I mean, mid-cap closing at the flat line is certainly a positive. Kunal, how do you look at it? in terms of the move today?
Yeah, it's a day of recovery for the markets, and of course, in complete contrast with what happened previous Friday for the markets, where the markets showed a very strong closing, and that too, I think, at the higher point of the trading range where we were. We are now at the lower end of the trading range for the indices, but we managed to protect the lows of 23,800 broadly for the index. So that, I believe, could be a very important test for the Nifty over the near term. The major factor, of course, for us to watch out for is what happens to Brent crude prices, because if the Brent crude starts to go into a cool-off mode, it's going to aid the rally further for many of the global indices going into next week.
Okay, crude continues to be the big watch point. Let's see how the news flow over the weekend pans out. But for now, we're going to wind it up right here on this edition of Closing Trades. Thanks for watching.